Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the national webinar organized by National Atlas and Thematic Mapping Organization on the topic "And Geography Matters." It is a part of the year-long celebration of the 75th year of Indian independence. Before proceeding to the event, I request everyone to mute their audio to avoid interruptions. Over the years, the value and importance of geography has risen, and attempts have been made to widen the range of its subject and to denote greater time to its study. The study of geography has changed considerably since its 19th century institutionalization as an academic discipline. Geography continues to illuminate major aspects of human condition through people's interaction with their natural and social environment. NATMO being a mapping organization and dealing in thematic mapping, it is very much integrated with geography along with multidisciplinary approach based on geospatial analysis. Now, I would request our respected director, Madam Dr. Taupati Banerjee, to say a few words on today's topic. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Shreya. Namaskar. First of all, I welcome you all, those who are present over here in this web platform, in this webinar series. Especially, I welcome our NATMO member groups to participate over here in this platform, and I also welcome other than NATMO members who are interested in the special topic of geography. And finally, I welcome our guest speaker of today, Professor Debendra Kumar Nayak from Department of Geography, Northeastern Hill University. And today's topic is very interesting. I hope everybody will enjoy. And in this regard, I just want to mention over here that NATMO, being a government organization working under Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, organizing the year-long event to commemorate 75 years of Indian independence. And in this webinar series, especially on geography, thematic cartography, thematic mapping, atlases, and this is the 19th in this series and 19th program in this series. And as geography covers all spheres related to themes and theme-related matters. So in these webinars, you will find every aspects of geography and thematic cartography and thematic mapping. So without any delay, I just request Shreya to invite our guest speaker, because everybody, I hope everybody is interested to today's topic to listen from Professor Nayak. So you please request Professor Nayak to deliver his theme or lecture. With this, I thank you all for your kind presence over here in this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us. We have with us the speaker of the day, Professor Dr. Debendra Kumar Nayak, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. He has 35 years of teaching experience as a professor in geography. His specialization is on social geography and population geography. He has also served as advisor to London School of Economics and Political Science sponsored project on crisis of governance. Welcome, sir. We are very keen to hear from you on the topic you have chosen, and geography matters. Please, sir.
Thank you, madam. It's indeed a great honor to be present here and speaking to all of you. Esteemed Director, Dr. Taupati Banerjee, NATMO, Dr. Madhuchanda Shane, with whom I communicated, and other colleagues of the NATMO, distinguished participants, students, ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed delighted to be amongst all of you in this special event. I'm grateful to NATMO for giving me this rare opportunity by inviting me to share some of my thoughts on this topic and geography matters. Let me share an anecdote to begin with. When we were communicating about the topic, Dr. Madhuchanda Sen had asked me to choose a topic of my own choice. And that is a very difficult an exercise to begin with. If you give me a topic, I prepare and I speak. When you say you speak on anything that you think is important, then you are in the woods. You don't know what exactly is important and what exactly what would like to speak. For a moment, I thought something I was writing some time back, but I couldn't complete it. I would speak on that. That is geography and opportunity lost, and with a question mark. I said, will that be all right? Dr. Shane immediately said, yes, why not? But then she added another sentence, will it not be too negative? I instantly replied, but there is a question mark in the question, in the topic. So it shouldn't be a typically negative topic. But then I thought over the whole night, is it really negative? But I never thought that I was being negative. But if Dr. Shane thinks it's a negative, it must be negative. So I said that, okay, what we can do is that we change the title of the talk rather than changing anything that I would like to speak. So then I looked at my writing and I thought this could be a much better title, and that is "And Geography Matters." Precisely that is what I wanted to talk. Let me also share the fact that when I am talking about and geography matters, obviously it deals with a lot of professional issues. And I'm sure many of you are geographers and many of you may agree or disagree with me, but as a critic, and you know, a critic is the one who spares no one, including the speaker himself. And it is with this critical bent of mind, I would like to present some of my thoughts on what is really happening and how does geography really matter or doesn't matter. That is something which I would like to explore in the next 30 to 35 minutes. Let me try and share what I would like to speak on. Kindly let me know if you are able to see it.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Is it visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. All right. And geography matters. And I would like to begin with some of the popular myths and the realities associated with geography, whether geography matters or doesn't matter in the present context. The first myth that I would like to share with all of you is that geography is an extremely popular subject. If we talk among ourselves, you would find some of us would always say that, oh, geography is such a popular subject. Most people take it as a subject and it is taught in the school as a compulsory subject. And many students would like to take this subject even at higher level. And when I'm talking to an audience which is largely consisting of people from West Bengal, I think I'm making a very, very mundane statement that geography is a popular subject. Geography is indeed extremely popular, as I know, in West Bengal, if not elsewhere. But the reality is that geography as an undergraduate or postgraduate discipline is confined to far few institutions. And if you look at the recent departments which have been established in the country as a whole, you would find that geography finds nowhere. If there are 13 or 14 new central universities have come up, barely one or two have been offering geography as a subject. If geography is such a popular subject, I do not understand why geography is not being considered as an important subject to be taught at the university level. The second myth that I often hear from my friends and generally people from without geography background, they would say that, oh yes, I liked this subject, geography, in my school days, and it was my most favorite. Truly so. But liking or disliking a subject is a personal preference. Somebody may like geography, somebody may dislike geography, somebody may like physics, somebody may like mathematics, somebody may even not like in the schools subjects like biology or subjects like economics or social science. But the fact remains to be examined is how many of us have consciously taken geography as its subject after we have completed schools. I'm sure the answer lies there. Extremely few students actually take up geography. If you take the country as a whole, please don't take West Bengal as a reference point. I have a very eminent geographer in Professor Ramachandran from Delhi University. He used to, when he used to speak on geography, he used to speak about UPSC, where he used to often go and conduct interviews for the UPSC candidates. And he said in one of the meetings, I heard him saying that most UPSC aspirants actually take geography as a subject paper. That itself should be sufficient to justify the fact that geography is an extremely popular subject, even if not in the university level, but certainly by people who are managing the country's administration. They always think geography is far more important. In the competitive examinations, opting geography as a subject is certainly true that most people take geography. My own brother, who did his MSc in chemistry, opted for geography. I have certain friends from engineering background or even medicine background who are MBBS. They have taken geography as a subject and have abandoned their own subject in favor of geography. So geography must be extremely popular. Professor Ramachandran said that he used to ask those who were not from geography background, he used to ask a simple question, that why did you take geography as an optional paper when you have your own subject where you have better understanding? The answer was very interesting. He used to receive this answer that it is extremely easy to score. Geography is so easy that one scores much more easily, and one doesn't need a degree in geography to do better in geography. Most, whether it's my brother or many of those UPSC aspirants, they are very candid in accepting the fact that geography is so easy that they can really read for a month or two and score much better in the it helps them in the general paper as well as in the optional paper to score much higher than if they had chosen their own discipline in which they had passed out. So that itself doesn't really speak great of geography that it is a subject which is valued by most people because of its something intrinsic advantage or benefit of this subject. But I would say that opting geography as a subject paper in competitive examinations is no measure of its status or disciplinary prestige. In fact, it is considered as a very mundane subject by most aspirants who take geography as a paper because they find it easy. One can easily manage the subject even without studying it for undergraduate or postgraduate level. So that's another myth, that geography is so popular, is so good and so interesting as a subject that more UPSC aspirants actually take geography as a subject paper. A fourth myth is that geography is a highly scoring subject. In fact, this itself speaks the mundane nature of this discipline, which attracts more doctors and engineers to opt geography as a subject. And many admit the subject matter they need to understand is a little more than general knowledge. I may sound very pessimistic, but this is something which I think many of us do realize, but wouldn't like to admit it openly. Then there is another myth that bright students opt for geography. And you can see that if some of your friends, some of your children are applying for geography at Delhi University, it is extremely difficult to find a seat in the Delhi University colleges unless the score is above 95%. And you have to score really good to get an admission in Delhi University colleges. Is it not sufficient to indicate that geography is a very, very important subject and only bright students opt for geography? I mean, that's another myth because Delhi University has an all India catchment as far as admission is concerned. And Delhi University is no sample to be considered as important because in Delhi University colleges, when students from all over the country apply for any subject, the cutoff is always very high, even if those subjects which we do consider as very easy or not high in demand. The last of the myths that I would like to place before you is that Geographical Information System, or GIS, has revolutionized geography. And it has opened a world of employment opportunity for geographers and anybody who specializes in geography and GIS. The world is open to them. But take it from me, and I'm sure all of you would agree that GIS is not geography. It is a tool, and nearly all disciplines use it as such. And in this context, geography has no added privilege. So with this, some myths that we carry with us and do discuss it at sometimes to be proud of, that we belong to geography, and geography is such an important subject, and geography is so difficult, or geography is such a privileged subject. I don't think that really holds much water. But when I'm saying all these, I'm trying to contradict many of these myths. I'm not really here to suggest that geography is basically irrelevant, or one can do without geography, or for that matter, geography has no scope when it comes to its practical use or even seeking employment, and that it is good to stop at school level and it has no future if one takes it up as a subject at university, college and university level. I do not mean it, because I think geography actually matters much more than what we generally talk about, or the myths are not to be taken seriously. The reality must be accepted, but the reality, far more important reality, is that geography matters. I have been talking about all these issues of the myths and the reality. The purpose is only to remind all of us that there are serious neglect of this discipline, which we have experienced, all of us. And at this age, I perhaps understand it a little more than the younger elements in our tribe. And many have written about it. If we, I think it was in 80s, 90s, when Professor Mukherjee began, A.B. Mukherjee, a very eminent geographer who began a debate on what ails geography, which resulted in quite a few reactions from Dr. Anu Kapoor from Delhi University, or for that matter, Dr. Sheila Prasad, or many others, which came as articles in Economic and Political Weekly. There were about 3 or 4 reactions to what Professor Anu Kapoor wrote. But the thread began with Professor Mukherjee and continued. And many of them identified that the subject of late has experienced a lot of intellectual deficit, has diffused focus, and suffers from serious scholarship deficit. And I was only trying to remind that the subject suffers from serious neglect, and the causes which all these thinkers and writers identified were both internal to the subject or even external to the subject. When they talked about the external aspects of the neglect, some of them pointed out that geographers, this external problems are because of geographers' reluctance to engage with social theory and a continued adherence, an uncritical adherence to positivist methodology, which characterizes the discipline. And some of the internal problems which they identified were, say, dualistic nature of this discipline, or reproduction of very deterministic ideas at some point of time in history of geography, or placement of geography in the university, either under science or under art, that confuses the students, and also extremely bad curricula. All these have been identified as reasons which have dwarfed the role of geography and has reduced it to a mundane level. And I have no difficulty in accepting the fact that there's an all-round inferiority complex when it comes to identify with geography. Many of you may find it atrocious as a statement, but I do feel, and in the question, if there's a question answer session, I would like to elaborate on these issues if somebody asks. But there is an all-round inferiority complex as far as geography is concerned. But geography matters more than ever before. Despite all these, as a professional discipline, there may be problems which may be also true of other disciplines, not only geography. But geography as a subject matters more than ever before, which is why, interestingly, we find those there are many scholars who have worked outside the discipline of geography use geographical concepts for a robust understanding of the reality. This is one thing which I have discovered in the recent past, where geography is demanded. We cannot just leave it as it is, because we are being coerced, we are being asked to be far more scholarly, far more relevant to both the social and natural sciences, and also to the world affairs today. Just because we do not do it, there are people who have taken up many of the interesting geographical ideas and have experimented it in their own disciplines and have got rich dividends. That's why I say that geography matters much more than ever before, and scholars working outside the discipline have used geographical concepts, very, very robust concepts that geographers developed to understand the reality. In this context, I find that many of the very robust geographical ideas which developed in the past have been unceremoniously abandoned. We have given up as if, it's a baby with the bathwater. B.L. Turner in 2002 makes a very, very pertinent remark. He says that geography has a history of abdicating powerful ideas nurtured within its ranks to be rediscovered by fields other than geography. I don't think anything can be more than true what Turner has pointed out about how many of the ideas which were very well nurtured within the ranks of geography have been rediscovered, have been really cultivated to its maxima by people who have worked in fields other than geography. To give you some examples, take the case of the concept of region, or the concept of environment, or the concept of spatial interaction, or area studies, or climate change. All these have come up as important concepts which geographers have used at some point of time, have cultivated, but unfortunately, after having done it, it is the same geographers who have successfully cultivated these powerful concepts have abandoned these ones unceremoniously, and have been picked up by people outside the discipline, and not have just picked up. They have got tremendous acknowledgement from the whole world, including a Nobel Prize. Just take the case of Krugman in 1997, or Gallup and Sachs, who have made a big name in getting Nobel Prize or getting accolades from all over the academy. And what they have done is applying simple geographical ideas to development economics. I'm sure you are all familiar with Krugman, who received Nobel Prize for economic geography. I'll just try and summarize what Gallup and Sachs did. This example will give you how important has been geography, and how scholars working outside the field of geography have used simple geographical tools and geographical concepts to development economics. So in understanding geography and economic development, Gallup and Sachs talked about the ways in which geography may matter directly for economic geography and economic development, and also control for economic, and can act as a control for economic policies and institutions. They talked about the effects of geography on policy choices and institutions, and they concluded location and climate have large effects on income levels and income growth through their effects on transport costs, disease burdens, and agricultural productivity. According to them, when we identify geographical regions, the concept that I was talking about, it is in discovery, the concept of region was basically done by early geographers. So according to them, when we identify geographical regions that are not conducive to modern economic growth, many of such regions have high density and a rapid increase in population, something that we are all very familiar with. We do it in our classroom teaching too. They found it to be true for population that are located far from coast, and thus that face large transport costs for international trade, as well as populations in tropical regions of high disease burdens. This is the main finding of their writing. They also highlighted in their study that much population rise will actually take place in such regions which are having high density of populations in the coastal areas and in tropical regions, which eventually also have high disease burdens. I mean, these are things for which they got tremendous acceptance, and this became the basis for development economics as a revolutionary change in their understanding of policies to be framed. Likewise, Paul Krugman, who got got an award, that's a Nobel Prize for his seminal work, he talked about how are we affected by globalization? What are the effects of free trade? Why do increasing numbers of people flock to large cities? Why are rural areas getting depopulated? With a simple postulate of what goods are produced and where, Krugman developed his model as to why some countries export certain goods and import others. His entire thesis was grounded on simple concepts we use daily in our economic geography classes. So this is what I found very interesting, that while we have been inventing such concepts, we are discovering such concepts which are extremely powerful as concepts, but we cultivate it for some time and then give it up for God for a reason. I don't know why we do so, but it has been the case with geography that we develop regions, we develop the concept of region, we develop a very keen understanding on environment, or we talked about spatial interactions, spatial connectivities, and we also talked about area studies and climate change, which is now the key buzzword these days, and almost everyone is now talking about climate change, something that geographers began with and talked quite a lot. But in the present context, it is not the geographers who are forefront, but others are. But we did cultivate them and abandon them as much as we cultivated. Again, Turner, if I have to, I'm always tempted to quote him. He has been very, very vociferous in his critique of geography and why they do so. He says that why are these reinventions, despite our labeling them simplistic and even erroneous, taken seriously by the academy and public at large, reifying the importance of the powerful disciplines of rediscovery? So while the other disciplines have benefited from the same concepts, we have missed the bus in the process. Let me now digress a little to look at the history through which we have traversed. And I see 1970s as a turning point in geography's history, when we made the discipline made serious changes and made a decisive break into the tradition. And what was this decisive break that took place in 1970s? It is accepting issues of social relevance, which made serious inroads into geographical discourse. Till then, and this is certainly a big break from the stranglehold of the classical geography, which relied more on economic space, physical and economic space, and did not permit the issue of social relevance to be a part of geographical discourse. But 1970s did see such a just 1970s did see this breakpoint in which geographers did make some very important departure from the past by breaking away from the classical geography that relied far more on physical geography or physical and economic space that were considered important for geography and nothing more. And this break resulted in many geographers picking up problems hitherto considered um, uh, outcast, or which were considered as not important to geography, and were essentially considered as prerogative of social sciences outside geography. Think of the issues of um, socially relevant issues such as inequality, disparity, regional disparities, feminism, racism, and so on and so forth. Such topics were never part of geographical discourse. Yes, we had human geography, but only human geography, but not inequality as an issue, not disparities as important, or not process as important. But these were certainly taken up seriously in 1970s. And I don't have to give too many examples of the studies which appeared during this time: geography of poverty, or geography of social well-being, geography of crime. These were something very, very new to geography, and the look of geography changed drastically in this period. In so doing, we had the beginning of or emergence of a new geographer. The geographers now felt far more entitled, far more privileged to pick up issues which were essentially or hitherto a social science prerogative. And this continued throughout 70s, 80s, and continues till today, where the new geographer acquired the status of a social scientist and began exploring fresh pastures, the pastures which were never grazed by them. So they started exploring fresh pastures, forgetting that there are others who had been already grazing in those very fields, say sociologists, or anthropologists, political scientists, with whom we had very little interactions. But we thought the new geographer, as a social scientist, found these very interesting areas to begin their search on. In their zeal for newfound freedom from the classical geography, heavily tilted towards physical and economic space, geographers used socioeconomic data. In India also, you would find the same thing. In 70s, we find this break when we started use of massive socioeconomic data, which are readily accessible at district or state level, that lent itself easily into choropleth maps and bar graphs. And when it came to explanation of these, essentially interdistrict or interstate variation, not regional, but interdistrict or interstate, because of our overdependence on census, we started collecting data which are available for the districts or for the states, and churned on, and we started grazing on these new pastures of interdistrict or interstate variation, but call them regional studies, regional variations. I remember I had written a paper in Transactions where I had mentioned about this. When I picked up randomly, I picked up thesis, about 20 of them randomly. Then I found that the term, every thesis title will have something, a taluka or a district or a state, and they would be called as regions. And I'm sure you understand what I mean to say. But we have diluted the whole concept of region and consider anything, any part of space as regions, without even going into the rich tradition of identifying regions on several principles. So when it came to explanation of why such variations do take place in the social and economic phenomenon, geographers began searching for tools and theories which were essentially developed in economics or sociology or political science or even anthropology. We had to rely on those theories, those tools and techniques which were outside the discipline, because we had nothing more to add except becoming a cartographer of the social sciences. Professor Sachidanand Sinha, who spoke last time in this series of lectures, was very, very scathing in his remark in 1996 that emulating the tools of sociologists and social anthropologists as a major to be a major cause of stunted growth of geography. That's what was his opinion. Professor Munish Raza, a very eminent person who should be credited with this break from classical geography in Indian scenario, particularly in Jawaharlal Nehru University, where he taught, which became the center that became the leader in breaking this tradition and fossilized tradition of economic and physical geography. He also warned something of this kind. He had understood it as a visionary. He had seen that this change towards geography as a social science needs to be treated with caution, and he cautioned. He said the temptation to escape from classical geography into outdated sociology and anthropology has often been resisted adequately. And that's what was his opinion, that we have been basically entering into anthropology or sociology or political science without even having the minimum skills of knowing such disciplines. In his own words, the sociologist or the anthropologist, the economist or the political scientist, tied down as they are by the tools and concepts developed in their own disciplines, generally ignore the regional dimension, which in the context of a large landmass like India is of crucial importance. The geographer can provide the necessary corrective. Now, this is what was his vision, that in the years to come, that geographers would like to provide actually a corrective to what the systematic disciplines like sociology or anthropology or political science do. And in his opinion, considered opinion, he was thinking that many of their follies can be actually corrected if we can see the same thing from a geographical perspective and provide necessary corrective. But this is precisely what did not happen. We did not take him seriously, and the new geographer was really lost in the wilderness of social sciences without being able to grasp where geography can really play an important role. And in the process, geography lost its professional value. The new geographer, new social science geographer as a social science, felt insulted and irritated if anyone questioned her on disciplinary focus. Many times the older geographers would ask this question, that why is geography? I mean, why it should be geography? Why can't, if you are writing something on, say, female participation, or you are talking about inequality or productivity, but there must be this disciplinary focus of geography, how it corrects the understanding and arrived at other disciplines. But if that is not happening, and if it is questioned, most of our new geographers felt very insulted and irritated if such a question was asked. The new geographer was perhaps too conscious of its past errors and is too eager for a course correction by dumping tradition altogether. So we wanted to completely erase the past. The classical geography lost complete significance for us, and we wanted to build on its edifice a new kind of geography, which would have nothing to do with the past, that is the physical geography or economic geography. And that you can see in the sense that geographers no more wanted to associate with simplistic explanations. We call them simplistic, but the same simplistic explanations were used by Krugman or by Goldman and Sachs to get Nobel Prize. But we considered many of those earlier geography as explanations as simplistic explanations based on geographical factors of being identified with nothing more than neo-colonial gazetteering or finding out capes and bays, world capitals, and socio-ecological determinism of National Geographic television specials, which are extremely popular, by the way. When you look at National Geographic, we find, oh, geography is so very interesting. But when it comes to classroom in geography, we find it's opposite. Geography is so boring. Stoddard in 1987 said, geographers forgot that some, in so doing, and when we are breaking away from the classical geography, many geographers forgot that some parts of the earth are high, others are low, some places are wet, others are dry, some are deserts, others are covered by forest and grassland and even ice. So this is what he lamented, saying that we slowly erased whatever was the geographical variation in space, and we treated space as an isotropic plane. Susan Hassan also questioned in 1999, why did geographers think that they arrive at useful generalizations only by erasing nature? For them, many of these new geographers didn't think nature is anyway important. The answers to these questions lie in an embarrassment over the discipline's earlier excess of environmental determinism. We, for years after years, we teach determinism in the classroom, or possibilism, as if determinism is something very bad, and possibilism actually replaced determinism without critiquing the whole concept of determinism or possibilism, or how it was used. We continue to reproduce to our students as if these concepts arose and were replaced one by the other. That's not true. The net result has been reject environment outright, reject regions, reject the past. That has been a very, very alarmist kind of rejection, in which we have lost many of those powerful concepts that I was talking about a while ago, when many of those powerful issues like regions, or the issues like climate change or environment, pollution, all these which were very dear to geographers, now slowly moved out of geographical discourse, and new elements came without really trying to place them in their rightful spatial context. Gallup and such, as I have already discussed, and Krugman applied those simple geographical ideas which have rejected, and the role of physical environment to development economics, which we have abandoned with an embarrassment, as if by talking about environment, we are actually talking about environmental determinism. But these two are not the same. You may talk about environment without being accused of being deterministic. And they never felt embarrassed, and indeed received widespread recognition for their contribution. Geographers, on the other hand, are not only erasing physical environment from their analysis, but are also finding regions, which were developed as a powerful concept in geography, as an inconvenient mess to deal with, either in teaching or in research, or both. We are slowly erasing even regional geography courses from our curriculum. We are using regions as any non-geographers would do. A district is a region, north is a region, south is a region. I find it extremely inconvenient when we are taught the concept of region. We write examinations on this. What about regions, about types of regions, how they are framed, how they are constructed, etc., etc. But when it comes to writing, we use the term region for anything and everything. A district is a region, any part, even directions are regions, like northern region, eastern region, northeastern region. How can they be regions unless you have subjected them to the conceptual test? We don't do it. And I've given you the example of many theses that I randomly picked up. Nowhere the concept of region, as is understood by geographers, has been used to define a region, and any slice of space is taken as a region. In many, even in the class, or even when I look at a thesis, I ask this question always, that how could you use this as a region? Because region has its own specific meaning, just as historians use periods. They are not embarrassed. They have never given up periodization as a fundamental analytical tool that they have used to understand history. But geographers have been finding it extremely boring, or perhaps embarrassing, to use regions in its rightful context. And second, the neglect of physical environment and decline of region, you would see as a concept in geography curricula has gone hand in hand. We are guilty of doing this, that we have been erasing physical environment, and we are also abandoning the concept of region in applying it in geographical analysis. I would again take a jump from what I have been discussing so far, and would like to quote one of my favorite geographers who died about 7-8 years back, Chapman, who wrote enormously on geography, professional issues in geography. And according to him, geography lies between accepting the wholeness of one Earth at one extreme, and at the other, the 7 billion different subjective understandings of that Earth by each of its human inhabitants. This is what he calls as the centripetal and the centrifugal forces in geography. Geography stands between the disciplines that quest for universal laws, invariant in time and space, and those that emphasize contingency and that accept the uniqueness of human evolution, human experience, lived experience, and human explanations. So these are the two contradictory approaches that geographers in the past have been doing it. We are equally worried about universal laws which should not vary in time and space, and at the same time will accept uniqueness of human evolution, experience, and human explanation. It is a subject that has to find centripetal forces to compete with the centrifugal forces. The first one is the wholeness of the Earth, that is centripetal, and the centrifugal forces, the 7 billion geographies that he was talking about. So the geography as a subject had to find a centripetal force to compete with centrifugal forces of surrounding disciplines and opposed methodologies and philosophies. In the past, the centrifugal forces have been resisted of those 7 billion geography, that each human being carries a world of geography with himself or herself. In the past, the centrifugal forces have been resisted by centering the subject on the synthesis of environment and society in differentiated regions. But since the idea of regional synthesis was attacked because of its methodological naivety, disintegration has become rampant. Having abandoned this role of regional synthesis, the centrifugal forces have first pulled towards the pursuit of generalizing laws, a trend that has resulted in a discipline which has forgotten the significance of regional synthesis. Then the forces have pulled it towards the embrace of the 7 billion subjectivities, in the process deliberately demolishing any hope of a shared knowledge. I'm sure you would agree that the moment we talk about subjectivities, there is no way that we can have a shared knowledge. Each case is unique. Each issue is unique. And there's no way of finding out anything that can be shared. So also a dichotomy that has developed in popular and academic geography. What is popular geography? Popular geography is available to all citizens. We all are geographers in that sense, and has myriad sources from where we get geographical knowledge, that whether it is a curricula in the school level that we are all taught, or the geography that we get from the media. Even the maps on the TV news provide a basis for which one need not be a geographer in the professional sense, but everybody becomes a geographer because they see a map and can understand the map when they are displayed on the TV. This is part of the popular geography which everybody is subject to. And what is academic geography? I don't need to really delve into it, because this is academic geography is what we are taught in the college and universities. It is regional geography, which we identified as the centripetal focus, that in the past mediated between these two geographies, whether it's popular or academic. It is regional geography which did provide this focus, centripetal focus that in particular in the past years that mediating between the two geographies, that is popular and academic. And having lost that centripetal force, modern students of geography learn methods, whether it is statistical methods or it is GIS or cartographic methods. They do learn a lot of methods, but not facts, and learn attitudes, but not facts. The other places that we talk about become decontextualized. The places are anything, and they are just places on the space, and highly decontextualized spaces. Say Kolkata is an example of a third world city. That's enough. But we don't see Kolkata as Kolkata, as it's in its rightful context. Our students arrive at university knowing very little about the world and leave it almost as ignorant. The resultant impoverishment ultimately stretches through all society. Can you be surprised that as a culture and as a nation, we seem enmeshed in dismally uninformed, reactionary, interregional, and intercultural politics? This is a very heavily loaded statement I'm making, but I wouldn't like to elaborate much, because that may involve another lecture, that how our students, our friends who do geography continue to be highly uninformed about places, about areas, about regions, and in turn, because of the very region, we turn reactionary. We are highly uninformed, therefore we turn reactionary. We do not even know interregional and intercultural politics. And who, if anyone, is filling the gap we have vacated? I have already answered that disciplines other than geography. Geographical discourse in recent years increasingly uses space as incidental, but not critical to geographers' understanding. I'm emphasizing on these two words, incidental, not critical, because a lot of us, our students and teachers alike, think space means anything that deals with space is geography, but it could be incidental, just as anything happening anytime is not history. But it must be critical to geographers, and the space must be critical. If it is not seen as critical to an understanding, then it's no geography. It is just incidental. Everything, nothing exists on the head of a pin. But that doesn't mean that everything is geography, just because we occupy a little space or more space. But many things are incidental, but some things are extremely critical, and space do matter. Space does matter, and that is what is not emphasized enough. And the issue of decontextualization of space and place has been far more damaging to geographical research, which is now increasingly built up on the edifice of a curriculum that is slowly erasing various traditions that we have developed, traditions of understanding environment, traditions of regions, traditions of spatial analysis, traditions of climate change, or understanding climate and its impact. All these traditions which are now slowly being erased, and these traditions are being frowned upon in the discipline firmly entrenched on space. All these were firmly entrenched on that space as a critical one to our understanding. No discipline thrives that abandons tradition. And no tradition can and should be immune to interrogation. I firmly believe in this, that we need not abandon traditions as quickly, and we cannot accept the traditions without interrogating them. Between constant revolution and stagnant tradition, there may be other paths to trade. Yes, accepting some of the broader traditions of a discipline and not abandoning ground it has won. I have almost come to the close of my sharing my thoughts on geography matters, but the postscript that I would narrate before you, and why geography matters, comes from interesting thoughts from a school teacher, Heffernan, who is a 7th grade social science and maths teacher. at Jefferson Junior High School in Naperville, Illinois. I read his this teacher who wrote very emotionally and wrote as a blog, and I thought I would present it verbatim as he said, and that would complete my talk today. He says, it became obvious that it wasn't just my students who needed to learn about the world, but that I did too. I knew where Afghanistan was on a map, but I did not know much more than that. I did not know what the Taliban was. I did not understand that the government was one of the most repressive governments in the world. In my mind, Afghanistan was the country that had fought off the Soviet Union in the 1980s, so therefore they must be our ally. I may have known the physical geography of Afghanistan, but I was ignorant to the human geography that existed there. Geography matters today more than ever, but only if we are looking at the right things. Google has changed our world, and geography is included in that. I haven't given my students a map quiz in years because there isn't really a need to memorize where countries are. Students can Google any country in the world to find its location. Geography matters more now than ever because students need to know human geography. They need to understand the relationships that exist between cultures. They need to see not just the differences in cultures, but the similarities. Students need to know that the kid sitting in a school in Afghanistan today probably doesn't speak the same language, practice the same religion, or live in a home that looks anything like a student in the United States, but they have a lot in common. They both love their families. They both want to play, and they both want to learn. When we focus on the similarities instead of differences, it changes the picture. Geography matters today more than ever because our students are growing up in a globalized world. Nearly all business is international. Our students will never work in isolation. They need to know that the other people they work with, whether in a cubicle down the hall or on a screen halfway around the world, all have ideas and value. While they might see the problem and solution differently, they still see the problem and have solutions. Geography matters now more than ever because global crises that range from migration to climate change to pandemics. Geography matters because learning about problems isn't enough. We have to take action to solve them. Geography matters because we are all connected. Geography matters because this is our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your excellent presentation. It has very much impacted us because you critically highlighted the neglect towards the subject also by the geographers themselves. And at the same time, you highlighted how geography can be relevant in nowadays. So it was very informative presentation. Now, before proceeding to the interactive session, I would request respected Director Madam Dr. Tapati Banerjee to share her views with us. And I request all the participants to turn on their video cameras. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent deliberation. Really, complexities are there, and in this complex world, that geographers, especially those who are in a higher position, they can think on this, how best can be done, or the time has come for rethinking on the subject. Basically, geography is a basic subject, so it has not been changed too much, although several subjects have been developed afterwards, like anthropology, as you suggested. There are some of the subjects have been introduced. So I think being a basic subject, it has been considered still, but there is a scope, I feel, to rethink on it. Now the question comes from whether the geographers will agree on that. This is really controversial, of course. And I think several questions may or interaction. I invite that questions and interaction with Sir for clarification on this matter or for their views on this aspect. With this, I thank you for your nice presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request all the participants to come forward with a question and make the interactive session interesting. But before that, firstly, I being a geography student myself, I cannot resist myself from asking sir that throughout my academic experience, I've realized geography is an interdisciplinary science. It takes and borrows principles from other natural sciences and explains the matters. But what happens when the other sciences are also interdisciplinary? They are also principles from other sciences, but they are holding their distinct scientific nature intact. But we geographers are lagging behind. We cannot build a distinctive scientific nature for the subject. Why the problem is there, sir? And I really felt very sad because throughout my academic life, I have realized this, because our subject is not getting a proper scientific value. Why is it so, sir? What is your opinion?
Very interesting question. And I would like to add your question as another myth. And
Okay.
the reality has to be spoken about it.
Okay, sir.
Interdisciplinarity is not confined to any discipline. We don't have a privileged status as far as interdisciplinarity is concerned. Every discipline is interdisciplinary. So if we say that geography is interdisciplinary, others are not, I disagree with it, because no discipline can really exist in a cocoon. And it has to borrow, just as every language, you take your Bangla language, how much it has borrowed from others, but has it turned out to be different? No. Every language has a 60 to 70% borrowing, but it still remains Bangla. I mean, if you look at for that matter, any language, why Bangla? You take any language, the borrowing is always, and it, in fact, borrowing actually improves its quality. It becomes far better a language because it can accommodate many more concepts, which are not found in that ecology where Bangla grew. So history of language would show that all languages do it, but we do not lose the basic ethos, the basic beauty of a language that we do. So also geography. And my answer to your second question, that why is it that it's not getting, I think my lecture was basically on that.
Yes,
that
sir.
we have abandoned something, many traditions, which were very robust in geography. We had taken up such issues of profoundness, and we found very embarrassing to pursue it to its logical end, logical extreme, and gave it up because we felt embarrassed. We felt that if there was slight criticism, we are so sensitive to criticism. Even if we found that environmentalism or environmental determinism was a bad thing, and it in fact could not sustain the critiques that came from possibilists, we abandoned it, saying that no, possibility is better. But we do not think that the environment is still an influencing factor. Environment continues to be important for us, and we could have pursued it, but we did not. And with the turn towards geography as a social science, we completely erased environment. We completely abandoned environmental issues. So also regions, just as periods in history, I told you, have been powerful analytical tools of geographical analysis. But we turned it into a very boring project, very naive project, where we started describing any part of the world was considered as a region, and then we went on describing it from geography to population to industry and all that, and thought this is a gazetteer writing. And then when everybody pointed out that it's bad, it's no more necessary. Then we even erased region as a concept. We don't even teach it in our classrooms. Regions beyond India are hardly, we don't even have a world geography where we need to know other cultures. We don't even write books. How many Indian geographers would write a book on Afghanistan or on Czechoslovakia? We don't even bother about. We become totally confined and introvert in writing about what we do in and around us, and then be happy with it. Our curriculum therefore has changed drastically to abandon many of these traditions, which I think to my mind were exceedingly important. Area studies, the areas where two nations meet, the transitional areas, how geographically important those areas, the border issues. It's a very, very rich area on which geographers could have worked, but we don't. We always look at that political boundary as if that restricts us. Geography is the first subject which should de-recognize these boundaries. For us, Himalaya is an important unit to study, not where the line of India goes and where the line of actual control and line of, they may be part of geographical studies in a particular discipline of geography or subdiscipline of geography in political geography. But geography as a whole doesn't recognize this boundedness of political boundaries, which are not eternal. They do constantly change. But what is eternal is Himalayas. What is eternal is Gangetic Valley. What is eternal is a region, a historical region, a cultural region. We do not talk about them. We talk about districts which change every 5 years, and then we are at a loss to say, what do I do, sir? The districts has been divided to 3. What I am asked this question, sir, if the district has been divided to 3, how do I analyze my data? Because we are bound by data, and we are bound by those lines which are drawn by administrators, by political, and we don't think of region. Somebody was talking to me about writing a book. I think it's Professor Dikshit, who was just completed a book on Pakistan. A very wonderful human being, a great scholar who has not only written a big volume on Northeast, a geomorphologist, by the way, who taught all his life geomorphology, but he has produced an excellent book on Northeast India. And the second book he has completed and is now finding a publisher who it's very difficult to get because it is on Pakistan. And then he was saying that not only that I'm finding it difficult because it will not be sold anywhere in Pakistan, and in India also there's so much fear that how can an Indian write about Pakistan. So you were saying the problem is that of the boundary, and NATMO would be interested in it, and Survey of India. His maps are being scrutinized with great detail, whether there is a 1 millimeter, 0.1001 millimeter change in the boundary. I said, sir, why do we bother about Pakistan? We could write something which for an area where which is both India and Pakistan, because that's a region for us. For this, we don't really need the administrative boundary. He said, but even then, I suffer from this problem. So these are the issues where geographers have abandoned this concept of physical regions, where these political boundaries lose significance. I think we should have a contempt for that. Rather than having a contempt, we generally go by strict boundaries. India's boundary, Bangladesh boundary, Assam boundary, and Bengal boundary, they become very important for us. For me, as a geographer, it has absolutely no significance unless 7 policemen are killed in Assam by Mizoram for 2 villages. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, I request other participants to come forward with questions.
Sir, I want to ask one question. Is technology advancement making geography gradually fade away?
Pardon? You have an apprehension that geography may gradually fade away? No. I say geography now matters more If you don't do, then I will do. If I don't do, then somebody from economics would do. If he doesn't do or she doesn't do, then somebody from anthropology would do. Because geography cannot be, it's so important. It matters so much in our day-to-day lives. And if we are uninformed geographically, then we become reactionary. We do not understand the other. A basic aim of geographical knowledge is to know the other and understand the other, and not get into the moment you do so, you will not see somebody as bad, somebody as a terrorist, somebody as this, somebody as that. The moment we do it, and that is what is the need of the hour. Geography is far more important in today's world, today's India. If I'm geographically literate, then I don't fall into these traps easily.
Anyone else who wants to ask question?
This is Madhurima Datta from NATMO.
Yes,
Please go
ma'am.
ahead. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Your last words and your last slide said everything you wanted to speak to us. Yet I think that technology relates very much with geography nowadays. And
Right.
new generation geographers are looking forward with this new era. Do
Yes.
you think that basic geography has went at the back foot nowadays a little while?
Why? Technology is an
No.
aid. It should make geography far more interesting, far more robust.
Yes, yes. Your
Why should
last
it?
words and last slide said
But it
everything.
must lead to an understanding of the other.
Yeah.
You know, the gentleman, the school teacher who writes, precisely writes this, that it should be emancipating. Geography should emancipate our understanding of somebody even as far in Afghanistan, that child in Afghanistan is my. So decontextualization is rampant in geographical understanding, and he says contextualize them. How important the child in Afghanistan is as important as the child in Europe or in America or in India. I can't see that child as being grown as Taliban.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Geography is a subject of the future with a very bright future.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who wants to ask any question?
হ্যালো স্যার, আমি একটা প্রশ্ন করতে চাইছিলাম স্যার, আমরা একটা জিওগ্রাফিক্যাল অর্গানাইজেশনে এত মানুষ জিওগ্রাফার এই অর্গানাইজেশনে আছে, কিন্তু আমরা যদি দেখি স্যার আমাদের ফ্যামিলিতে আমাদের বাচ্চারা, আমাদের সন্তানেরাও কিন্তু কয়েকজন হাতে গোনা আছে যারা জিওগ্রাফি পড়তে যাচ্ছে বা পড়ছে। সবাই কিন্তু যারা ধরুন ভালো ছেলে মেয়ে, তারা বিভিন্ন অন্য ডিসিপ্লিনের যে সাবজেক্ট গুলো চলে যাচ্ছে। এটা শুধু আমাদের এখানে, আমি শুধু আপনাকে একটা এক্সাম্পল দিলাম, কিন্তু আজকে যারা দাঁড়িয়ে আমরা দেখছি আমাদের ছেলেমেয়েরা যারা লেখাপড়ায় খুব ভালো, তাদের আমরা জিওগ্রাফিতে আনার দিকে উৎসাহিত করতে পারছি না। আমরা নিজেদের কোনো একটা সীমাবদ্ধতা রয়ে যাচ্ছে যে হয়তো জিওগ্রাফিতে এলে তারা সেইভাবে দাঁড়াতে পারবে না। এই কারণ আজকে দাঁড়িয়ে এত বছর পরেও আমাদের জিওগ্রাফি ম্যাটার্স এইরকম একটা সেমিনার করতে হচ্ছে, অথচ আমরা জানি যে জিওগ্রাফি ছাড়া আর অন্য প্রত্যেকটা সায়েন্স বলুন কিছুতেই ডেভেলপমেন্ট হতে পারে না তাদের। তো এই জায়গাটা, এই সীমাবদ্ধতাটা আমরা কিভাবে কাটিয়ে উঠতে পারি?
I couldn't get the crux of the question. If somebody can translate.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
She's saying that the children nowadays, the young generation is not feeling very much interested to take geography as a subject. While geography is of utmost importance, other sciences are also related to the subject, but they're not feeling very much interested to take this as an academic subject and go forward. So what can be done for this problem? This was her question.
I cannot give an instant solution to this, but the fact remains is that geography, there has been absolutely no change in our school curriculum. We continue to teach the same or things which have to be memorized, and there is no. I'm involved with a project in which school curriculum critiquing the school geography textbooks, and I'm discovering how boring is the subject that I myself went through. And what I discovered is that what I read some 50 years back or 60 years back remains the same in school textbooks. Rarely anything has changed. And that is what it makes it uninteresting, unstimulating. And we all need to think, as geographers, how best, if I come up with some solutions, I would certainly post it as a blog, or I would write to all of you, send it for your comments. We are constantly engaged in this, whereas history becomes so very exciting. My daughter, who passed her class 10 3 years back, 2 years back, she was saying, "Sir, Papa, I'm very much interested in history, but this geography is so boring." Because I mean, it is indeed boring. It goes on and on and on those things, which and we have mechanically pasted many things which we consider as new. And when I was teaching her class 10, everybody was scared of topo sheets and how to interpret topographical maps. I don't understand, in this world of GIS and no, what is it called? This remotely sensed data and all that is what has to be now examined more and more. And I'm already engaged in this. If I get some ideas, I would certainly share it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else who wants to ask any question? Okay, it was a very interesting session and motivating presentation from sir, as it is we have realized that it is our responsibility. We geographers should carry it forward, the importance of the subject. And as a member of NATMO, we all NATMO people are very much proud of the subject, and we consistently use geography in our different activities. So we have successfully come to the end of the 19th webinar, and I convey my sincere thanks to our respected director madam for giving us this platform to share new ideas. I also thank our honorable speaker, Professor Debendra Kumar Nayak, for sharing us his valuable time. I'd like to thank all the dignitaries and NATMO officers and staff members for making this event successful. And last but not the least, I want to thank DST Government of India for this initiative. Thank you all, and we will meet again very soon in the next webinar. Now I request everyone to stand up for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे